We are not the same, I am a Martian. So approach my fan.
I had $4 million in the safe, right? In the hood. And the reason anything above 100,000 is
100,000?
100 million.
Oh, okay. I was
The Game, a heavyweight name in hip-hop history. Once hailed as the West Coast's last stroke of luck, The Game possesses all three things people crave most: money, power, and fame. For nearly 3 decades inside the American entertainment dream, what The Game holds has never been ordinary. From a Calabasas mansion valued at $5 million to an extravagant lifestyle beyond imagination, a massive fortune, and a car collection that sparks envy, everything reflects the image of a modern-day emperor. But has anyone ever told you this is only 1/3 of the assets The Game can publicly disclose? Where are the other 2 parts, and why do they never appear before the public eye? Don't look away, because what you are about to see behind the doors of Calabasas could change the way you view success in hip-hop forever. From foster homes to the streets of Compton, Jason Terrell Taylor, known to the world by the stage name The Game, emerged from the unforgiving streets of Compton, California, a place infamous for its dangerous atmosphere under the iron grip of CPS. But what was Compton in those years really like? A space compressed by poverty, violence, and the complete absence of opportunity. Low-rise houses, rusted iron fences, tangled power lines hanging overhead like spider webs, and police sirens became the familiar background sound of childhood. There, children learned to spot danger before learning to trust people, because trusting the wrong person came at a price. His childhood was deeply soaked in gang culture, with both parents, George Taylor and Lynette Baker, being active members of CPS. Did a family like that have any other choice? Yet The Game and his brother chose a different path, pledging allegiance to the rival Bloods gang. That decision did not open an escape route, but pushed them straight into a vortex of chaos and conflict, leading to frequent encounters with the law. Despite countless hardships, The Game completed his studies at Compton High School. But completed for what, when the road ahead remained unclear? He tried several community colleges only to eventually abandon formal education and fall under the pull of the streets where money came fast and the price was even faster. However, a freak incident, a near-death experience, pushed him to leave drug dealing behind, study the entire history of hip-hop, and commit himself to becoming a rapper. From mixtape hustle to commercial peak, his raw talent and dedication did not go unnoticed. Shaq, a giant figure in the music industry, recognized The Game's potential and expressed interest in signing him. Fate, however, shifted when the legendary Dr. Dre producer and visionary architect discovered The Game's original talent and quickly brought him under the wing of Aftermath Entertainment. Under Dr. Dre's guidance, The Game was pushed straight into the spotlight, strategically paired with 50 Cent and G-Unit to amplify his position in the rap world. In 2003, he signed his first recording contract with G-Unit Records, laying the groundwork for a rapid breakout to the top. Once inside this ecosystem, the value of each verse multiplied exponentially. Bigger advances, larger scale shows, wider distribution networks. Rap was no longer just making money, it was creating leverage. The Game began to understand that music was not just a creative product, but capital. Capital that could generate returns if placed correctly. Leveraging his rising fame and talent, his ambitions did not stop inside the studio. In 2004, he crossed into acting, voicing the character B-Dup in the critically acclaimed game Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. He continued to show versatility by playing himself in the game Def Jam Icon in 2006. On the big screen, he made his acting debut in the action film Waist Deep, portraying the character Big Meat. Breakthrough with The Documentary, the album that turned a street rapper into a millionaire. In 2005, The Game made major waves with his debut album, The Documentary. Dr. Dre's production and high-profile collaborations with 50 Cent helped the album explode almost immediately. But that was only the surface. The album quickly climbed to #1 on the Billboard 200 chart. In its first week alone, it sold approximately 587,000 copies. That figure did not just shock the press, it forced the entire industry to sit down and recalculate. For a rapper from the streets of Compton, this was no longer symbolic success, but the moment real cash flow began. The documentary soon achieved double platinum certification, proving this was not a one-hit moment, but a product strong enough to stay on store shelves and inside listeners' wallets. His impact went far beyond chart numbers. The question is why? He became a driving force in reviving West Coast hip-hop, bringing the genre back to prominence on the mainstream stage where it had once been pushed aside. The overwhelming reception of the documentary brought this rapper enormous income. His contracts with Aftermath Entertainment and G-Unit Records delivered not just fame, but substantial advances and royalties. Merchandise sales and touring revenue continued to grow. The Game's early net worth. The Game's collaborations with major artists like Dr. Dre, 50 Cent, Lil Wayne, and Kendrick Lamar were no accident. They were strategic moves. These mutually beneficial alliances expanded his audience and boosted financial returns through increased album sales and streaming numbers. Live performances continued to generate massive income for the Compton rapper. His tours across North America, Europe, and Australia consistently sold out, pulling in millions of dollars in revenue. Artists often earn more from touring than from recorded music because they share less with record labels. This turned touring into a primary income stream, contributing to his overall fortune. To put the scale of this breakthrough into perspective, revenue from just one album was enough to buy 5 to 7 middle-class homes in California at the time. And that was only the surface. 1 week of sales for the documentary equaled the lifetime earnings of hundreds of American households. These numbers are not exaggerated. They raise a cold question about how quickly money can alter a person's status. The Game also adapted quickly as the music industry shifted to digital platforms. His extensive catalog generates passive income through Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube, keeping the money machine running even when the stage lights go dark. Cannabis dispensary and other business ventures. In 2016, The Game made a decision many in entertainment viewed as risky when he became a co-owner of The Reserve, a legal medical cannabis dispensary in Santa Ana, California. This was not a branding play. The Game did not stand on the sidelines collecting image fees. He took part directly in operations, product development, and brand building. In an industry that tempts people with flash and short-term profits, he chose a slower, quieter path with controlled cash flow. This choice clearly reflects The Game's financial mindset. Music still delivers fame and stable income, but it no longer serves as a high-growth engine like it did at its peak. Music income supports a good life, but depends on market cycles and media attention. The Reserve therefore acts as a secondary pillar, keeping cash flow active even when the stage falls silent. What matters is that The Game does not use money to chase flashy images. He uses money to build structure. Instead of public spending sprees, he chooses investments that can sustain him long-term. This is not the safest move, but it is the clear-headed move of an artist who understands that a career cannot rely on a microphone alone, but on constant control of money. Beyond music, The Game also owns multiple valuable real estate properties that we will examine in detail later. Real estate homes, the Calabasas mansion, and deals up and down. In The Game's asset map, real estate has always been the most symbolic piece. But does that symbol come from steady hands or from big gambles? After tasting success, he followed a familiar path among the wealthy by investing in 2 homes in the San Fernando Valley area. One was located in Glendale, purchased in November 2005, right when the real estate market was boiling. A time when everyone believed home prices could only rise. But luck did not smile. The property was sold in May 2014, resulting in a loss of up to $270,000. A cold question emerges: true wealth, or simply someone who entered the market at the right time, but exited at the wrong one? The second home was located in Porter Ranch, purchased on May 31, 2007, as the housing market began to wobble toward collapse. The intended use of this property remains unclear. A family residence, a retreat, or simply an investment bought on the belief that prices could not fall much further. The home features 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms, with a living area of 2,449 square feet, sitting on a lot of 6,243 square feet. Built in 2006, the house carries a flexible and practical design. The upper floor includes 3 bedrooms and an open living area that can easily be converted into an office study or 4th bedroom with the addition of French doors. The kitchen features granite countertops and a central island fully equipped with stainless steel appliances, blending luxury with practicality. The kitchen flows into a large living area with a fireplace and abundant natural light. Outside is a private garden with enough distance between neighboring homes to create a sense of seclusion. A textbook suburban life. But suburban for living or for storing money? The true center of his real estate picture, however, is the Calabasas Mansion, one of the most exclusive and expensive gated communities in California. The Game purchased it on April 30, 2014 for $1.6 million. Situated on more than 2 acres of land, the home includes 4 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, with a total living space of 4,132 square feet, originally built in 1978. An open kitchen and large living area overlook a canyon and the Santa Monica Mountains. A private gate sauna, swimming pool, organic garden, and a guest house with its own kitchen. Quiet, secluded, far from prying eyes. But the question remains, as assets grow larger, does a home remain a refuge, or does it become the most closely watched place in a celebrity's life? The Game's impressive sneaker collection is also worth noting, which he personally estimates at around $2 million. According to his own assessment, this passion reflects the explosion of the sneaker market, where collectors are willing to pay massive sums for rare pairs, such as Michael Jordan's game-worn shoes, that sold at auction for $8 million. His asset-building strategy also extends into real estate investment. While specific details remain private, he has mentioned owning a home valued at $5 million, indicating substantial real estate holdings beyond his music career. A massive supercar collection, the blazing red brand style. For the Game. The garage is not just a place to store cars. It is a silent declaration of power obsession and an ego built and sharpened over time. His lineup is not assembled to show off on social media, but rather like a collection that reflects each layer of the personality of a rapper who came out of Compton and survived long enough to buy the things that once existed only in dreams. First is the Lamborghini Aventador, a masterpiece of automotive engineering. With a naturally aspirated V12 engine, a rare sight in the turbocharged era. The Game's signature red version is priced at up to $418,000, accelerating from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 3 seconds with a top speed of 217 miles per hour. Next is the Rolls-Royce Ghost, a symbol of refined luxury, equipped with a twin-turbo 7-liter V12 engine priced around $315,000, delivering an exceptionally smooth ride with a top speed of 155 miles per hour. Then comes the 2015 Porsche 911 Turbo, valued at approximately $180,000, telling a different story. Less flashy, more refined, precise, and controlled. This is the car of someone who has made enough mistakes to understand that true power lies in mastery, not impulse. It represents the phase when the Game began thinking more about durability rather than just instant victory. But when it comes to pure authority, nothing surpasses the custom Rolls-Royce Phantom, valued at around $450,000. This is not a car meant to be driven fast. It is a car meant to be sat in. The Phantom symbolizes crossing into another level, where nothing needs to be said. Presence alone is enough to change the atmosphere. Then, there is the Mercedes G-Wagon Brabus, roughly $250,000, and the armored Cadillac Escalade ESV, about $120,000. These two vehicles are not about glamour, but about security. They reflect the true nature of his starting point growing up amid violence. Combined, the total value of this garage is enough to buy roughly 20 luxury homes in the United States. A single Rolls-Royce Phantom alone equals the lifetime income of a salaried American. But the point is not the numbers. The Game's garage reveals a cold truth. Money for him is not just to be spent. It is used to protect the ego-assert status and maintain safety in a world where success always comes with risk. This is not the garage of someone newly rich. This is the garage of someone who has lived long enough to understand the price of fame, philanthropy, and social image. When it comes to philanthropy, the Game is known for his generosity. For many years, he has consistently supported Boys and Girls Clubs of America, Children's Hospital Los Angeles, and homeless shelters across California. These are not logo-driven sponsorships, but cash flow directed toward places where he himself once stood at the margins of society. For the game, charity is not about telling a new story, but about repaying an old debt to childhood. On a broader social level, the game does not shy away from taking a stance. He openly supports Black Lives Matter and speaks out on gun control and education reform. These positions have cost him public consensus at certain moments, but in return, they deliver consistency. He chooses criticism over silence to preserve a safe image. For the game. If money is only for consumption, it is empty. Money only matters when it comes with social responsibility. What stands out is how he turns personal projects into tools for community support. The Hurricane sneaker line in collaboration with 310 Motoring was not released as a simple fashion product. A portion of the revenue was allocated to support victims of Hurricane Katrina. This approach shows a clear mindset. If emotions and image are being sold, then profits must flow back to where they are needed most. No long slogans, just money going to the right place. But the project that drew the most attention was Project Robin Hood. The game committed $1 million of his own money without intermediaries, without complex review boards. He selected recipients directly through social media, read their stories, verified them, and handed over the money. Some needed help paying medical bills. Some families were on the verge of losing their homes. Others were trapped in debt with no way out. Each grant was a personal decision, risky by nature, but also a clear statement of his belief in direct action. Compared to many charity campaigns funded by collective budgets, Project Robin Hood is a personal initiative, yet its value matches the annual budget of many small organizations. This creates a stark comparison. When decision-making power lies in the hands of one individual with money, how fast and how powerful the impact can be. The game understands this, and he chooses personal accountability instead of hiding behind institutions. Overall, the game's philanthropy does not make him look better in everyone's eyes. But it clarifies one thing. His money does not sit idle in garages or on bank statements. It moves, touches real people, and leaves a mark. For the game's social image is not built with words, but with money delivered at the right moment to the right place, without demanding public gratitude. A noisy personal life. If the game's career is a series of public confrontations, his personal life moves in the opposite direction. Less showmanship, less explanation, and always a deliberate distance from the public. This is most evident in his long-term romantic relationships, where he avoids noise despite always standing under the spotlight. In 2006, the game became engaged to Valea Butterfield. At the time, his career was at its peak, and the media followed his every move. But this engagement did not lead to a fairy tale wedding. It ended quietly with no public accusations and no extended interviews. For the game, romance is not a tool to maintain attention. When it no longer fits, he steps away. After that came an approximately 8-year relationship with Tiffany Cambridge. This was one of the rare periods when the public saw the game as a family man. He appeared with her at events on social media and even brought the relationship onto reality television. VH1's Marrying the Game followed the game, and Tiffany centered around a seemingly simple question: when would they get married? But the final answer was no. What matters is not that the wedding never happened, but how the game handled everything afterward. No attacks, no public shaming, no turning emotional failure into entertainment content. The show ended, the relationship closed, and he returned to his familiar privacy. This reflects a clear boundary. The game may allow cameras into his home, but he does not allow them to decide his life. On the family side, the game is the father of 3 children, 2 sons and 1 daughter. He rarely speaks in detail about them in the media, but on the few occasions he does, his priorities are clear. Family is non-negotiable. In a world where rappers often use children as a softening symbol for their image, the game chooses to protect their privacy. No showcasing academic achievements, no turning personal moments into viral content. For him, being a father is not a role. If his romantic and family life are kept private, his body tells the opposite story. His tattoos covering his body resemble a living museum of memory. Each tattoo is not just aesthetic, but a timestamp, a spiritual marker. Looking at his body, one can read an entire flow of hip-hop culture and the influences that shaped this man. The Tupac tattoo holds a place of honor, like a tribute to an icon who deeply influenced the game's mindset and musical path. Tupac was not just an idol, but a blueprint for merging art politics and personal identity. For the game tattooing, Tupac is not about fandom, but about reminding himself of the responsibility of having a voice. Alongside that are Left Eye and Aaliyah artists, who left too early and became symbols of a generation's loss. These tattoos are not simply nostalgic. They represent the fragility of talent and the cost of fame. Every time he looks at them, the game is reminded not only of them, but of the thin line between the peak and the end. The Kobe Bryant tattoo carries a different meaning. Not music, but discipline. Kobe represents extreme work ethic and an obsession with self-improvement. For the game, Kobe symbolizes never allowing complacency regardless of how far one has gone. This is not a random tribute, but a deliberate choice of values. Placed together, the game's tattoos turn his body into a timeline. From youthful idols to industry tragedies, to disciplined role models of maturity. No long interviews, no autobiography needed. His skin tells the story. A story of a man who grew up in chaos, stepped into the spotlight, and found his own way to preserve identity amid temptation. Overall, the game's personal life is neither empty nor chaotic like his stage image. It is built on long relationships, decisive choices, and a memory system carved directly into his body. He allows the public to see just enough to understand, but never enough to interfere. In a world where everything is exposed that may be the most sustainable form of personal power, the game possesses legal troubles and financial consequences. In the game's financial journey, money has not always come from music or investments. There were periods when money flowed in reverse, and legal trouble is where that reversal became most visible. A series of incidents involving violent behavior, resisting arrest, and public disturbance repeatedly pulled the game into legal battles, places where fame no longer functioned as a shield. The year 2007 marked a heavy turning point. The game entered a no-contest plea in a felony-level weapons case. There was no prolonged media spectacle, only a cold legal outcome: 60 days in jail followed by probation. For an artist at the peak of his fame, this was not just a personal sentence. It was a warning signal for the entire financial structure behind him, from tour schedules and contracts to credibility in the eyes of business partners. But the biggest blow did not come from criminal court. It came from civil court. The lawsuit filed by Priscilla Rainey, tied to the reality television show She Got Game, opened an entirely different front. The court issued a damages ruling of approximately $7 million. That figure was not only shocking, it raised serious questions about the game's financial resilience. A judgment like that was enough to wipe out the combined revenue of multiple albums, especially at a time when the music industry was no longer as generous as it once was. The consequences did not stop at the payment itself. According to subsequent allegations, failure to fully comply with court orders led to more complex disputes, including the risk of asset seizure. Real estate cash flow, and even assets tied to his personal brand, were placed under legal scrutiny. The peak of this chain reaction came when Rainey obtained control over Prolific Records, along with royalties connected to the album Born to Rap. This was a direct strike at long-term income, the kind often viewed as money that arrives without stepping on stage. From a financial perspective, these troubles exposed a harsh truth. An artist can earn millions from tours, albums, and investments. But a single unfavorable ruling can erase all of that advantage. The legal system does not care how many records you sell. It only cares about obligations that must be met. For the game. This section is not just a list of mistakes. It is a lesson about the price of fame when paired with unchecked behavior. Legal trouble did not completely destroy his career, but it forced every financial number to be re-examined. At this level, wealth is no longer about how much you make, but how much you keep after the law finishes its calculations. Net worth and financial conclusion. When the final number is no longer the most important thing at the beginning of 2024, multiple celebrity wealth tracking sources, including Celebrity Net Worth, estimated the game's net worth at around $12 million. For a rapper who came out of Compton, lived in the foster system, and grew up amid violence and instability, that number is not just money. It is the result of a long collision-filled journey where success and mistakes always traveled side by side. The primary source behind that fortune comes first from music. Album and single sales during his peak years, especially from the documentary and the projects that followed, laid the initial financial foundation. Even though the recorded music market no longer operates as it once did, the game's older catalog continues to generate steady cash flow through streaming and royalties. Alongside that, YouTube allows him to maintain direct presence with fans, reinforcing his image, while adding a stable income stream in an era where artists increasingly must operate their own personal brands. Concert touring is the next pillar. Without the need for massive stadium tours, the game maintains a consistent performance schedule across North America, Europe, and Australia. Each tour not only brings in cash, but also keeps his name from slipping out of the market's flow. For a veteran artist, the ability to continue selling tickets is the clearest proof of personal brand value. Beyond that are secondary income streams, where the game clearly demonstrates a diversification mindset. Endorsement deals, while not constant, still generate meaningful revenue thanks to years of accumulated recognition. Business ventures, particularly in cannabis and commercial partnerships, have not turned him into a billionaire, but they play a critical role in reducing dependence on music. These are quieter streams of income, but they help prevent his financial structure from collapsing when trends shift. However, the game's financial picture is not a straight upward line. Legal trouble, civil judgments, and asset pressure have pulled his net worth downward at different moments, forcing him to confront the reality that wealth does not equal safety. It is here that the game's story separates itself from purely successful archetypes. He did not only build an empire, he nearly lost control of it. In summary, the game is not just a wealthy rapper, he is a living example of how you can build an empire through talent and timing, and just as easily lose control of it through a few wrong decisions. A net worth of $12 million is not a final period, but a snapshot of a much longer journey. A journey where money reflects the person, and where every number carries the story of choices paid for with time pressure and maturity.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.